Kids Inc. to be dismissed, and so that's kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. And if you're a first-time guest with us, we are so excited you're here. Hopefully you got hooked up with a free coffee when you came in. If not, make sure you grab one on the way out. But all this flood of kids, this is for kindergarten through 5th grade. We just ask that the first time your child goes that you check them in. And then if you decide to return, that you could, they could just check in when you get here and you could release them. But oh, someone's alarm's going off. This is embarrassing. Would the driver of the red Kia please come outside? Done. Everybody's like, is it me? We'll check the cameras, and next week we'll tell everyone whose it was. So don't think you're getting out of this. Hey, we're in this series, Each One, Reach One, looking at that every person in this room has somebody that is close to them, but they're far from God. You can think of people in your life that you know right now that if they were to die, you believe in your heart that they would spend all of eternity separated from God. We believe that the Bible teaches the answer to the sin problem that we have is a guy named Jesus Christ. That He's provided salvation for us, that He did the work, and that He calls everybody to Him, but we're left with this personal responsibility. Look at all you guys, don't want to be shamed. Y'all could, I mean, if I was y'all, I'd just hit the button from my thing, and if it didn't do it, I'd say it's not mine. It could be mine, I don't know.
It's a black
Oh,
Chevy.
would the owner of the black Chevy please report to the front desk? We repeat, the black Chevy. Who drives the black Chevy, huh? Oh. Yeah. Oh, what color is it? Oh, sorry. We'd repeat. It's a silver car sitting next to the black Chevy. Everyone, oh my goodness, we don't know. Guys, we are only as good as the information we're given. So if this is your first time visiting, we ask that you'd please come back next week and give us another. Oh, goodness. Well, anyways, back to what we're talking about. There's people who you have in your life that love you deeply but want nothing to do with Jesus. And I think God's placed them in your life for a reason. And I think the biggest reason is that you would be somebody that could tell them Jesus Christ loves you. And so we've been looking at each one could reach one person for the gospel. And you think about it, there's a lot of power in just one. We almost downplay, like if you were to offer somebody $1, like not a lot of motivation comes with $1. $100, $1,000. I mean, as that number grows, everything seems to grow, the excitement. But honestly, if you said, hey, Travis, we've got this amazing opportunity for you, man. We're planting a church and there is one person. Would you come? I'd be like, I'll do that. Are they rich? Like, how much money does the one have? I mean, but honestly, like just one is not a lot. But we're going to look today that there's a lot of power in just one. I was reading this book and going through it with this young man, and it asks the question, what do you want to accomplish with your life? What do you want to accomplish with your life? I was thinking about that, and I want to live a wonderful life. That's what I want to do. I want to live a life that's wonderful. And as me and this young man were sitting there talking through it, he had all these dreams that he wanted to do, and I had all these dreams that I wanted to do, and so we started to kind of go back and forth. What does it even mean to have a wonderful life? Well, I want to be a winner. Like, I mean, you don't want anybody that loses. I mean, I don't know if that's a wonderful life. I was thinking about that. Like, a wonderful life, you have trophies. Oh, you all didn't think these were going to make it in a sermon one day? Ooh, that's heavy, Brandon. No, but seriously, I mean, is this what's wonderful in life, that you get trophies? I don't know. Money. Who's ever been poor in their life and said, man, my life is wonderful. I can't afford my electricity. I can't make my car payment. My house roof is falling in. It's leaking. No, I mean, being poor is that wonderful? So I started, I'm working through this book with this young man, and we're talking through this. And is it academia? Like what am I going to have to do in my life that I would get to the end of it, and that people would say, man, Travis Boyd lived a wonderful life. Raising kids? I don't know. I think that we can look at some things that the world's going to tell us that would make life wonderful. You know what it starts with? A lot of big payments. You got to have the latest toys, the latest gadgets, the biggest house. I mean, you want to have a wonderful life? Like, make sure that your house is the biggest in the neighborhood. That's wonderful. Make sure that your job gives you more money than you could ever even need, and that you've got everything that any person has ever desired. I was talking to someone the other week, and we were talking about was everyone's electric bill high in town like the last 2 months? Yeah, mine was, and I don't know who in the city has a brand new Lamborghini, but I'm paying for it. And that's sarcasm, sorry. But seriously, like you look at this bill, and it's so expensive, and then I got to thinking, how blessed am I to even be able to pay that bill this month? And so what does life say would be wonderful? I think it's an endless game if you want to have a wonderful life according to the world. But I think God's going to give us a definition of what it looks like to have a wonderful life. I think that the goal for us, for you and I, would be that we would hear these words. Matthew 25:21 says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." That we would get to the end and we could be like Paul is in 2 Timothy, that we would say, man, I've ran the race. I've completed the task. So we're going to look at how to have a wonderful life, and we're going to look at a guy named Andrew. And Andrew, we'll see, is really not like the top disciple by no means. Andrew's someone that even almost gets forgot about when you talk about the 12 disciples. He for sure doesn't make the top 5 of the list. And so we're going to be in John chapter 1, verses 35 through 42, and it says this. The next day, John was standing with 2 of his disciples. This is talking John the Baptist, standing with 2 of his disciples, when he saw Jesus passing by and said, "Look, the Lamb of God." The 2 disciples heard him say that, and they started to follow Jesus. When Jesus turned and noticed them following him, he asked them, "What are you looking for?" They said to him, "Rabbi," which means teacher, "where are you staying?" "Come, and you'll see," he replied. So they went and they saw where he was staying, and they stayed with him that day. It was about 4 p.m. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the 2 who heard John and followed him. He first found his own brother Simon and told him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated the Christ. And he brought Simon to Jesus. When he saw him, he said, "You are Simon, son of John. You will be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. Well, before we dive too far into this, I do want to ask you, what are you looking for? We love Life Point. Life Point's exciting. It's going great. There's barely any seating room in here when you show up. Things are going great. But what are you personally looking for? Are you looking for a church that's got the newest, hippest music? Are you looking for a church that just lets you come in and go by to get by? Or are you looking for somewhere that you can find Jesus and encounter him? Are you looking for just friends and somewhere that you can belong? Like, what are you personally looking for in life? And so they leave John the Baptist to follow Jesus, and he sees them, and Jesus says, "What are you looking for? What do you want? Why are you even following me?" And they see him, and they say, "Teacher." All of this church attendance and coming on Sundays is kind of a wash for you if you're not looking at Jesus and says, "Man, that's my guy." It all really boils down to what are you looking for? If you're looking for a deeper relationship with Christ, I think we can help you find that. If you're looking for a place where you can belong and have community and have people who love you and want to walk alongside you, I think we can help you find that. If you're looking for success and security and status, I don't think you should be looking for that in a church at all. But what are you looking for? And here's a question for you, believer. You were looking for something at some point, and you found Jesus. And my question for you was, Jesus enough? Like when you found Jesus, were you like, "Man, that's enough. That's all I need is Jesus"? Like, well, what if everything else, the rest of your life, was a complete wash, and your kids died, and your family died, and you lost your job, but you still had Jesus? Would you say, "Man, he's more than enough"? I don't know. But Andrew finds Jesus, and he leaves, and he starts to follow him. And he says, "We've found the Messiah." When Andrew found Jesus, he said, "Man, we found the Savior. We found the Messiah." And Andrew's really a quiet but faithful disciple. Like, Andrew is one of the first 4 disciples that Jesus calls. And so for some of you guys, you would say he's a charter member of the disciples. For the rest of us under 40, we'd say he's like an OG, like he's been there from the start. Like he's one of the first. And you think about it, being one of the first, like would probably make you prominent. I mean, but honestly, how many books did Andrew write in the New Testament? 0. Like, how many stories do you read where Andrew gets up and, like, he's the star of the show and he's preaching and fire comes down from heaven and Pentecost takes place? Well, 0. Yeah, I agree with you. It's absurd. How many stories do you read where Andrew gets to walk out of the boat and we get to have these crazy stories? 0. Like, you want to know, like, what you read about Andrew? You read that he brings Jairus' daughter to Jesus. You read that whenever the boy had his fish and his bread, that he brings that kid to Jesus. He brings the Greeks to Jesus. Like Andrew's not mentioned in the Transfiguration. He's not mentioned in the Garden of Gethsemane. Like he's not mentioned anywhere, to be honest. But he's faithful. He every time we read about him, he says, "Hey, here's Jesus. Hey, here's a boy with some fish and some bread," and he takes him to Jesus. Andrew wasn't a big deal at all, but he saw the value in one. I think that's the first challenge for us. If we want to live a wonderful life, we have to see the value in one. We've got to be able to see people as not projects or people as problems, but we've got to see people with the eyes that Jesus sees them with and says, man, there's value in just that one. Andrew wasn't a leader. I mean, the list goes on for who Andrew wasn't. But he was a helper, helping people to come to Jesus. I would be willing to say that by worldly standards, when Andrew got to the end of his life, the world didn't write a book about Andrew and says 5 key steps to have a wonderful life while you're here on earth. History actually says quite the difference, that he ends up leading a leader's wife to Jesus. One of the officials, and that official is so mad because he says, "I won't share my wife with any man, whether it be God or not, like no one but my." And so he tells his wife, "You've got to recant your belief in Jesus." Absolutely not. So that guy finds out that it was Andrew who told her about Jesus, and you know what he does? Has Andrew killed, crucifies him upside down on the cross, and you know what Andrew does until his very last breath? He tells every passerby about Jesus Christ. I don't know what chapter that is in these self-help books about how to get ahead in life, but I don't think it makes it. Like, it doesn't look like a wonderful life. But I'm telling you, what happens from Andrew's life is Peter, Cephas. You know what Peter goes on to do for the gospel? Amazing things. It says, Matthew 26:18, he says, "You're Peter, you're the rock on which I will build my church upon." That he is one of the foundational member that goes on for the New Testament church that God uses in a mighty way to build what we see today. Andrew brought him to Jesus, the one. I was reading about it. There's all kinds of stats you can read about how powerful is one. One vote saved America's military military's draft before World War II. Right before Pearl Harbor. One vote kept Andrew Johnson from being removed from presidency. One vote gave annexed Texas into the United States. One vote. Like just one. There's so much power in just one. And those are just history facts. One person matters, which means one soul matters, which means Andrew understood the value in seeing one person. We like to do things for multiples. I mean, we don't show up and just say, man, we hope just one person shows up. Like, that's not the goal. I mean, if that was the goal, we'd have one seat out and you guys would have all the room to run and frolic that you could ever imagine. Like, we're praying that many people show up. But you know, if you told us that if we did this all year and one person would come to know Jesus, we'd do it all year. And if you said, hey, you're going to do it again next year and one person is going to come to know Jesus, we'd do it next year. One person. And Andrew simply brings these people to Jesus. The question is, who's one person God's asking you to bring to him? Like who's one person in your life that maybe the world says there's no value and maybe society says it's a wash, but one person that God says, man, if you'd bring them to me, watch what I could do with them. Who's one person in your life that needs brought to Jesus? A Wonderful Life also sees the value in small gifts. Andrew is the one who, when that boy has his barley loaves and his fish, he sees the boy, and Philip's with him, and Philip's basically freaking out. He says, man, how are we going to feed all these 5,000 people? Like, what in the world are we going to do? 200 denarii of bread wouldn't even be enough. And Andrew's there, and Andrew sees this boy with these barley loaves and this fish. He says, man, I'm going to take this small gift to Jesus and see what he could do with it. And what God does is he uses what seems very insignificant for something major. I mean, literally, if you think about the widow who gives, and Jesus says, man, she's put in more than everyone. Well, it wasn't talking about financially. She gave next to nothing. But she gave of everything that she had. And in the kingdom, that made a huge difference. This small, insignificant gift. You know why that is? It's because God's ability to use our gift isn't determined by its worth here on the world, but it's determined by how we faithfully give it. I was thinking, you guys probably have read about or learned about the ripple effect that takes place. And if you've ever been out on a lake when it's still, if you've never thrown a rock in it, like, it's crazy to just watch as it continues to go. Now, I'm not weird. I don't think if a butterfly flaps its wings in Japan, there's a hurricane that happens thousands. That seems a little absurd. But I do understand that one small action can cause a reaction that continues forever and forever. And I was reading about Edward Kimball, and some of you guys may know who Edward Kimball is, but in 1858, he was a Sunday school teacher. Not really a big role. I mean, most churches, I've actually never been to a church that's paid their Sunday school teachers. So we're talking about a volunteer role in a church. He shows up every Sunday and he teaches Sunday school. But he had a goal in his life. He says, I want to tell every one of my kids, every student that comes in here, I want to tell them about Jesus. I want to personally share the gospel. And so he found this one boy that was kind of a little bit of a pain. And he says, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell him about Jesus. So he goes to the shoe store where this kid works, shares Jesus with this kid. This kid gets saved. This student's name was Dwight Moody. Dwight Moody goes on to become one of the biggest evangelists of his time, and he goes and he starts to travel around in Britain, and he shares the gospel. Goes in, and this young man named Frederick Meyer gets saved. Some of you guys are probably still like, why is he all these names? They mean zero to any of us. Frederick Meyer goes on, and he starts to become an evangelist just like Moody was, sharing the gospel. He's preaching one Sunday, and he says this: if you're not willing to give up everything for Christ, are you willing to be made willing? It's a pretty good question. Like, if you're not here and you're not willing to give it up for Jesus, like, are you willing to be made willing? Like, if God moved in your life and said, hey, are you even willing to move? He does that, and Wilbur Chapman hears this, and he says, God's calling me. So he gets saved, and he goes on, and he becomes an evangelist. As he's an evangelist, he's preaching, and he gets a recruiter, he recruits a volunteer named Billy Sunday to help him with his crusades. Billy Sunday goes, and he watches Chapman preach everywhere. Chapman's preaching, and Billy Sunday takes over. Billy Sunday goes on, and he starts preaching. He goes to Charlotte, North Carolina. And they're in Charlotte, and these people, they get fired up, and they're like, man, we're going to put one on right here. And they put one on, and Mordecai Ham comes and preaches. Who's Mordecai Ham? I've never read a book by Mordecai Ham. This year that he's preaching, this farmer says, man, I'm going to take all my people that I can get to go to this revival. So he puts them in the back of his pickup truck. That was back when you could do it. I wouldn't recommend it nowadays. But he puts them in the back of his pickup truck, and one of these kids is this 16-year-old boy. Goes and listens to Mordecai Ham preach, gets called by the Lord, surrenders that night, and you know what that kid's name was? Billy Graham. Now we got all the way to Billy Graham from all the way back in the day from Wilbur Chapman and Frederick Meyer and Dwight Moody, and everybody today knows who Billy Graham is. If you don't, you're just uneducated. We'll help you out. He's one of the largest evangelists that our world has ever known. Preached to millions. I mean, he was a huge deal. Thousands upon thousands of people got saved because of Billy Graham's preaching. Well, because of Jesus, but because God decided to use Billy Graham. If you told me I could drive 100 miles and I could go pick up Billy Graham to bring to church every Sunday, and God was going to at some point take him and make him an evangelist that would see tens of thousands to get saved, I would get up every morning, every Sunday morning before I came here, and I would go pick that kid up. If we could see what God wanted to do with people, it would radically change what we're willing to do. There's power in one. They had no clue back in the day when he went to that shoe store, the events that God was going to use to bring Billy Graham to salvation. But God knew. And so it's just one. It's just one person that we've got to see, and we've got to say, man, I want to tell them about Jesus. No clue what Jesus will do with them. Will they become a worldwide evangelist? I have no clue. Could they? Oh, for sure. We serve a powerful, mighty God that uses insignificant people, that give insignificant gifts in a mighty way. And so your small gifts, your prayers, a simple invitation, man, God can use that for a mighty ripple effect. So a wonderful life sees the value in that insignificant gift. Sees the value because they know, man, God can do something amazing with it. So what are you holding back? What gift has God given you that you could use right now that you're holding back and you're like, it doesn't matter? I don't know. And probably next week we're going to dive into spiritual gifts, and we'll talk a lot about what kind of gifts people have and what that looks like to use for God. But also this, a wonderful life sees the value in hidden service. All this is looking at Andrew, the quiet helper that sees something that people would say it's not worth much and uses, but also sees the value in hidden service. He said, Ephesians says this, don't work while being watched as people pleasers, but as slaves of Christ. Do God's will from your heart. Yeah, Andrew's never mentioned preaching to the crowds, never mentioned as just the guy. I mean, he's not Paul. Like, he's not Peter. Like, he's just Andrew. But God says, man, I'm going to use you in a mighty way. Serving behind the scenes, never seen. I wrote down, this is what tradition says. On an X-shaped cross. Because the Roman governor's wife got saved. What a wonderful life. To give it all behind the scenes, to die for Jesus. Not what the world would call wonderful. He was faithful, bringing people to Jesus. You know why he was faithful to bring people to Jesus? Because he lived for an audience of one. Like, he lived that he would hear those words, well done, my good and faithful servant. Not so he could get a bigger church, not so that he could author a book, not so that people would come along and they'd say, Andrew, tell us how you did it. He did it because he wanted God the Father to see him and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. It was more than enough for him. Asbury Revival, if you guys remember that, happened probably 3 years ago. And Asbury, Tennessee. Now, I should have wrote down the state it was in, but it was north of Florida, south of Canada. I'll quit. This guy gets called by a school to go and preach at a chapel, religious school. The preacher, when he was talking about his sermon, he said, you know how I feel about the sermon? Blah. Like he didn't think it was that good. Like he really, I mean, I don't even know the guy's name. But he didn't think he even preached that good. You know what God did with that? For weeks, a revival, I mean, people were traveling from all over to go to this school, waiting hours in line to go in and see this revival that's taken place. Just this insignificant, small sermon that nobody was even ever going to hear about. He said, man, I'm going to go, I'm going to give it all I got for Jesus. And God took it and used it for a revival to break out. Hundreds of people saved. Many called into service. And it wasn't because he wanted to get up there and he knew that this revival, he said, no, I'm doing this for God. An audience of one. It was weeks, and this simple act of obedience sparked revival. What do you think God could do with your all's obedience? What do you think God could do if you laid your yes on the table and said, God, I don't know what you want to do. I don't know if they'll respond to you, but this person in my life I know needs you. And I'm going to tell them about you. And you saw that one the way that Jesus sees them. I don't know what God will do with it. I think that there are many people in this world that are going to die and go to hell. Why people who love them and care about them stand back because they don't want the awkwardness, or they're afraid to fail, or they're afraid of what it would look like. But I believe we serve a God that is mighty to save. A God that stood in my place, in your place. You know, that's the story of the gospel. Is that not a single one of us deserve it. I mean, sometimes it's easy to get on our kind of our like holy righteous like horse and start being like, yeah, I deserve Jesus. No, you don't. You guys are dirty dogs. I mean, I'm being serious. Like I know in my heart that the Travis that Jesus Christ saved was a bad person. Like, and I know it's only by His grace and His mercy and His goodness that there's anything good that lives in me. But sometimes, like, it gets easy to be like, well, I pastor a church and I pay most of my taxes and I speed sometimes. Like I'm better than a lot of people. Like I'm not that strung out drug dealer. Like I'm not that person that's in and out of jail. Like I deserve. No, we deserve none of it. It's His grace and mercy that He stood in our place. But God doesn't need famous people. He don't need rock stars, and He doesn't need these televangelists. You know what God needs? Faithful people. That's all He needs. I think God is able to change all of Fulton, Missouri, and all of Callaway County, and far beyond when people are faithful to what He's called them to do. You know, this is our prayer for LifePoint. We want to see LifePoint explode in such a way that we don't just stay here, that we start to plant around anywhere God would call us. Like we don't want to stay in this building. We don't want to just fill up this building. Like we want God to grow this in a mighty way. But not so that I could walk around and pat myself on the back at the Missouri Baptist Convention and be like, oh man, did you hear? We had 397 billion people at church. No. You want to know why we're doing this? So that mother that was strung out on drugs could hear about Jesus Christ. So that person that just doesn't have anything in life would hear about a Savior that says, I love you. And they would come to know Jesus. And you know why that matters? Because at some point, you know what's going to happen to whatever place or wherever LifePoint's at? Like either somebody's going to buy it and bulldoze it, or they're going to put an event center in it, or Jesus is going to return and it's going to get burnt up and He's going to create a new world. Like none of this makes it. But you know what makes it? That one person that surrenders their life to Jesus. They make it. That's what all this is about. Yeah, we print the stuff and the bulletins and we're trying to do all we can and we want it to be good and we want you to come here and say, man, I feel refreshed. But if you don't leave here with an earning to tell somebody about Jesus, or you don't come here and you don't in your own heart say, man, I need that Jesus they talk about, it's a wash. So that's the challenge. It's just to think about who's your one. I'll invite the praise team up and you guys really think about that. You want to live a life that you would say, you would hear those words, well done, my good and faithful servant. Put your hand on somebody that you can say, man, that person knows Jesus because I took the time and I prayed for them, I invested in them, and they trusted Jesus as a direct connection to me. Now, don't do it to boast on yourself, but you can make it all the way through life. You'll have the best job. You'll have all the friends. You'll have the best retirement. You'll have it all. But I'm telling you, if there's not connections that you say, man, they heard of Jesus through me, I don't think you could get to the end and hear those words, well done, my good and faithful servant. I think God left us here and He said, go and tell them, making disciples of all nations, baptizing them, and teaching them to obey me. That's what it's about. And if you'll take this challenge serious, if you'll really in your heart say, man, who is that one? And you'll lay it all out on the line and say, man, I'll do whatever I got to do to tell them about Jesus. And God in His grace and mercy saves them. We'll never need to encourage you to go tell someone else about Jesus. When you are able to see that death just fall off as they're clothed in the righteousness of Jesus. When you're able to see that person that you love fall in love with Jesus Christ, there's no more convincing that needs to be done. You'll say, man, where's the next one? So pray for your one. I challenge you to write your one's name down in whatever place you see every single day. And when you see that person, you be broken in your heart that if they died, they spend all of eternity in hell. You be burdened by that reality that there's no second chances where they're going. And you see value in them like Jesus sees value in them. And you tell them, man, Jesus loves you. If they shrug it off, tell them again, Jesus loves you. Heavenly Father, Lord,